On May 7th, 1994, the NBA's top seed in the West, the Seattle SuperSonics, were a powerhouse loading up after a 63-win season, ready to take on the chance to win an NBA title with the dreaded Michael Jordan now playing baseball. The title was open for the taking, and they were just one win away from getting out of the first round for their chance to win, but a pesky upstart team that barely made the playoffs, the Denver Nuggets, came in as the 8th seed and pulled off the unthinkable. For the first time in NBA history, an 8th seed had toppled the number 1. Using grit, heart, they were able to come out of nowhere to win this. With no scoring star on their team, they took down legends of Seattle in one of the greatest upsets in NBA history. Join us as we relive these games in this series that changed everything for these two teams. Today on Daily Sports History.
Plan on flying? It's time to upgrade to a real ID. Because in order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID, or you'll need another acceptable form of identification. So don't wait. Find out how to get your real ID at tsa.gov/realid. That's tsa.gov/realid, or visit your local DMV. And then you'll be cleared for takeoff.
Welcome to Daily Sports History. I'm Ethan Reese, your guide as you daily learn more about sports history, increasing your sports knowledge. Now first, let's dive into these two teams. In 1993, the Seattle SuperSonics were a powerhouse. They led the league with 63 wins, winning both their division and the Western Conference, giving them the number 1 seed. Their offense was electric, was 5th in the NBA, averaging 105 points a game, and they had a great defense, finishing 6th in the NBA with 96 points a game given up. Led by legendary head coach George Karl, the roster was talented. They went all in knowing that Michael Jordan, who had just retired the year before after winning 3 straight rings, it left the door open for both East and West teams for the chance to actually win a title, as it seemed almost impossible to beat Michael Jordan. But he wasn't around, so open the door. They were led by Gary Payton, a Hall of Famer, was an All-NBA, All-Defensive player, and finished 6th in MVP voting, averaging 16 points, 6 assists, and 2.3 steals a game. And his running mate, Shawn Kemp, was averaging 18 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks, and almost 2 steals a game, earning him All-NBA honors as well, and was a force at both ends of the floor. And they added even more to their team. They returned Sam Perkins, a steady center who provided offensive and veteran leadership. Nate McMillan was a defensive specialist and led the league with 3 steals a game coming off the bench. Was also named to the All-NBA defensive team. And they brought in 2 ringers who could score at will in Detlef Schrempf, a versatile forward who could score inside and out, and Kendall Gill, a slasher who could help boost their perimeter attack. This team on paper looked fantastic. They were deep. They had players on the bench that could start across the league. They had 2 All-Stars, 2 All-NBA players. Coach Karl coached the All-Star game, and they had finished the season winning 7 of their last 8 games. They were ready for this moment. They had set up everything to go after a championship. Now they were facing the number 8 seed Denver Nuggets. In contrast, they went 42-40, barely having a winning record. And they had a losing record away, winning only 14 games on the road all year. But they were very good at home to give them a little bit of advantage. They were led by Coach Dan Eisel, and the team was in a transition. They were building around youth and athleticism rather than star power. The only name you probably remember from this team, unless you were a big fan back in the 90s, was Dikembe Mutombo. He was a defensive anchor and shot-blocking sensation, but he wasn't a scorer. He's not a star in the main sense that we think of today as a scorer, a guy that you look to hit that final shot. That's not Mutombo. He's that guy you look for to block that final shot. So a unique guy that really deterred everything on defense. They also had LaFonso Ellis, who was a versatile forward that could score and rebound. Robert Pack came off the bench and was a high-energy guy and had great clutch play. And Reggie Williams provided scoring and veteran leadership on the wing, but they had no All-Stars, very little playoff experience, and they were widely dismissed that the Seattle would just blow them out, as Seattle had swept the regular season series against Denver, and no 8 seed had ever beaten a number 1 seed in NBA history. It was a true David versus Goliath, but no one was backing David. So Game 1 came on April 28th, 1994 in Seattle, and the series opened at the Seattle Center Coliseum, where the Seattle SuperSonics looked every bit the dominant top seed as they crushed the Nuggets, winning by 24 points, 106-82. Seattle's defense was suffocating. It wasn't just a great offensive. Their defense was great as well, as they held Denver to 37% shooting from the field. Detlef Schrempf led the team with 21 points, with Sean Kemp and Sam Perkins adding help off the boards, each having 9 rebounds. Denver young core struggled. Brian Williams led the team with just 15 points, and Dikembe Mutombo was able to get 9 rebounds despite being below his average for the season. And at this time in the 1990s, the first round was just 5 games. So winning Game 1, your odds went up tremendously. And Game 2 happened 2 days later, again in Seattle. Gary Payton led the way with 18 points and 6 assists, with Sean Kemp dominating on the glass with 12 rebounds as they won by 10 points, 97-89. Denver's offense again sputtered as LaFonso Ellis was able to get 18 points, but they were not able to close the gap, going down 2-0. Being up 2-0 in this time was almost a death sentence. Would go to Denver next, where Denver played better at home, but many saw it as just a blip on the radar. Seattle was going to win and move on, and with their great odds to win the title that year. So they came to Denver at the McNicholas Sports Arena, and the Nuggets came out alive in this game. Reggie Williams exploded for 31 points and 8 assists. Mutombo came down with 13 rebounds, anchoring the defense, and they came out swinging in the first quarter, winning 41-26 that quarter, and they never looked back. Their backs were against the wall. They had nothing left to lose, and they gave everything in front of their fans, winning 110-93. The following game happened on May 5th, 1994, where still one game was all the Sonics needed to finish this out. And the Sonics had a chance to win it. They were up in the final seconds, but the Nuggets clawed their way and tied it up to send the game into overtime on the backs of LaFonso Ellis, who again had a monster game, scoring 27 points and having 17 rebounds. And despite Gary Payton and Detlef Schrempf having 20 points apiece, they struggled in the overtime period, being outscored 12-3, with the Nuggets winning 94-85. Mutombo was a game changer on defense, having 6 blocks in the first game where they held the Sonics below 90 points. And he was able to hold Sean Kemp down, and they won this game decisively, sending it back to Seattle, but with all the momentum on the backs of the Nuggets. But Seattle wasn't going to go down. Even though the Nuggets had climbed back, they were back at home, and they wanted to finish this off. The first half of the game was tight from the outset. Denver's defense set the tone, as this was going to be a defensive battle, and every shot was being boxed out like no other. Everyone wanted the chance to score, and Gary Payton struggled to find his rhythm, playing through a foot injury, and Sean Kemp couldn't get around to Dikembe Mutombo to have any offensive staying power in this series. And Mutombo was a beast in this final game, blocking 8 shots in just this game alone, and would finish with 15 rebounds, anchoring the entire game in 45 minutes. And a new perky energy off the bench, Robert Pack, who went undrafted, played a role in this game, having 23 points and 10 in the fourth quarter alone. And Brian Williams had a massive double-double in this game, showing that even people you've never heard of could do amazing things, as he had 17 points and 19 rebounds. That Denver got down and dirty in this game to help offset what was going on. They out-rebounded the Sonics 58-36, limiting their second chance and controlling the tempo throughout the game. And with the game tied late, Gary Payton had a chance down 2 to hit a running shot, but he airballed it. But luckily, it was caught by Kendall Gill for a putback at the last second to help force an overtime. But the Sonics couldn't capitalize in overtime either. They missed a final desperate attempt to tie the game. They were down 4 with just seconds left, and they made it a final attempt, but again missed, with Mutombo grabbing the last rebound. He fell to the floor as time expired, holding the ball with all his might. In a picture you may have seen, and we'll post on our social medias if you haven't, in true enjoyment and love of the game. He had left everything out on that court, gave them a chance, and they took down probably the best team in the NBA, ruining the Sonics' chance at their NBA title, which they still have not won an NBA title since 1979. And Denver would move on in the playoffs, facing the Utah Jazz, another team that was really on the cusp of something, with Karl Malone and John Stockton playing in their prime. They fought hard, taking them to 7 games as well. But unfortunately, the Jazz won and went on to face the Houston Rockets, who would be the eventual champions that year. But this really showed how a team could come together and really have a lot of success. Mutombo was a star at this point, but an unusual star, a guy that you could use along a scoring star and wouldn't take away from that. And he was used throughout his career like that, a guy that would help anchor your defense, get you rebounds, but you didn't need him to score. The following year, again, the Nuggets would be a 500 team, making the 8th spot in the playoffs, despite drafting a scorer in Jalen Rose, but he was just a rookie. And they didn't have the same luck in the playoffs against the San Antonio Spurs, losing in 3 straight games. And the Denver Nuggets had struggled for years even after this. It wasn't until 2006 when they finally won a division again. And it wasn't until 2023 that they won their very first conference title, making their first final, and winning their first championship. It'd been a long road from the ABA to them to win their championship. But moments like this, winning the 8th seed, was huge. The Seattle SuperSonics continued to have success throughout the 90s. The following year, they would finish 4th in the West, but lose in the first round to the Lakers. The year after that, in 1996, they would finally make it to the NBA Finals, but Michael Jordan came back, and they lost in a 6-game series. Still waiting for that championship to come back around. As in 2008, they had moved to Oklahoma City, where they had a lot of success when Kevin Durant was there. But again, still looking for that championship, but luckily they have won. I want to thank you for listening to today's Daily Sports History. If you want more Nuggets content, check out Chicken and the Nuggets podcast, where 2 Denver-based comedians sit down and enjoy a meal of chicken as they discuss the Denver Nuggets. It's a good time to get all you want to know about the Denver Nuggets in, and we'll put a link in the description below for you to check them out. And if you like today's Daily Sports History, give us a rating or review wherever you're listening. It brings a huge smile to my face. And when I'm smiling, I'm enjoying making more Daily Sports History for you. So come back for more tomorrow on Daily Sports History.